Hey, travelers of the night. In my time gone again, I've taken the time to take a clearer look into myself and become a more well-rounded and understanding person. In this pursuit, I've discovered my love for Moon Knight. Growing up, my father had a bunch of comics, but I was never really interested in them outside of a couple of them. I don't really know the issues that they were, but I do remember the characters that were on the covers. One of them was Silver Surfer, and the other was Moon Knight. And this would serve as my introduction to the character. A decade would pass before I saw this character again. I had always had an affinity for him despite not really knowing much, but once the show came out, I dove in headfirst. I loved the character and thought the show was pretty good at the time. However, it would only be a couple years later that I would truly become obsessed with the character. In my time away, I read a lot of Moon Knight comics, almost 200 of them by now. I also own the complete edition of the Jeff Lemire run and a graded issue of the solo debut of Moon Knight all the way back in 1980. So suffice it to say, I consider myself the biggest Moon Knight fan on the planet. Recently, I finished my first semester of screenwriting in college, and I plan to take it again next semester. Like with Moon Knight, as I've gotten to know and love myself more, my love for writing has rekindled within me, so to say. And this class only furthered it, along with furthering my knowledge and perspectives of which I understand and view films and television. So I figured, why not combine all my passions and make a video where I review the MCU's Moon Knight as not only a diehard fan of the character, but also somebody who knows very little, but still something about film, okay? The comics, as with most superheroes, differ in the live action. In the original comics, Mark Spector is a singular entity. He is a formerly dishonorably discharged soldier on account of lying about his instability and his mental illness. Though this has since been retconned into what I would call a spiritual episode in which Mark walks out onto a minefield, which is, for some reason, right outside of a fucking military tent. Don't know why they decided to set up shop right next to the minefield, but hey, maybe I'm not a soldier, I don't know. In a Walter White-esque fugue state, after which he decides to become a gun for hire, which ends him up in a mercenary group in the Middle East. This is where Mark would go on to meet Jean-Paul Duchamp, who is a skilled driver and pilot and also a fellow mercenary. Mark and Jean-Paul work for a madman named Raoul Bushman, whose name is spelled differently depending on the writer for some fucking reason. He is a skull-faced tattooed psychopath who wants nothing but blood and riches. Bushman hires Mark and Frenchie to go along with him as guns and transportation on a job in the Middle East. The job in question is to kill rebels in the area, but that's for a different time. Frenchie discovers Bushman's plan. Frenchie would go on to tell Mark about this plan until Bushman interrupts him and just tells him the plan anyway. Look, it was the 80s. You gotta cut him some slack. The writing wasn't as airtight. God forbid. Bushman tells the two that they're going to Selma, which currently has no rebels in it, and presumably kill a bunch of innocent people in search of an American who supposedly has found a tomb of an ancient pharaoh. However, Mark and Frenchie decide that this is too far even for them, but before they can plan to escape, the raid that they're currently on breaks out. We cut to two individuals, one Marlene Allround and her father Peter Allround Sr. in a building nearby. Peter recognizes Bushman and goes on to kill him. But before he can, however, Mark warns Bushman, who promptly grabs Peter and bites his fucking throat out. Peter's last words are telling Mark where his daughter is for some reason. I don't know about you, but I'm not telling the location of my only child to one of the people who just fucking tried to murder me. Maybe I'm just a weaker man than he is, I don't know. Mark, feeling guilty about causing a man's death and in turn sparing Bushman's life, immediately goes to tell Marlene to get the hell out of there, to which she complies after understandably berating him for being a piece of shit who got her dad killed. Bushman sees this act of mercy, and his crew gun down the rest of the archaeologists in the area to prove a point, because, again, he's a fucking psychopath. This is where Mark draws a line. He decides to rebel against Bushman, but he gets his ass whooped instantly. Bushman then orders Frenchie to dump Mark in the desert to die a miserable, slow death. He wanders around for a while until he comes back to where he just was. Only this time, Bushman is gone for some reason and there's a group of nice Arabic men willing to help him. Ain't that just an awesome plot point? These men bring him into the tomb where we see Marlene again, who's happy he's dead. And so far I'm Team Marlene. I don't know about you. The men leave while Marlene decides to stay back for a bit. In doing so, she processes her grief a little bit and realizes that the last thing Mark ever did, which signed his death warrant, was save her and say he was hot. Again, it's the 80s. You can't really expect much from the women in these comics, especially those that are relegated to just the love interest. This is when Mark is presumably revived by Khonshu, the Egyptian god of the moon, underneath his statue. I say presumably because in the original run, it's a little bit vague as to whether or not Khonshu actually revived Mark, and this all culminates in issue 28, in which the conclusion to that is basically there's some supernatural stuff that happens, but whether or not it's actually Khonshu influencing it or just comic book coincidence is up to you, the reader. But his ass definitely got revived. Following this, Mark does what any man does. After being revived and losing some of his memory, it's complicated, he dons the cloak and cowl of the statue of Khonshu and goes off to defeat Bushman. I'm a ghost now, a specter of the moon's night of vengeance, and I've got work to do. He's so fucking cool. He's so fucking cool. He quickly murders some guys and confronts Bushman. However, Marlene is caught up to him, fucking somehow, and someone grabs her. This turns out to be Frenchie, who was trying to help Mark, but lets her go when Mark tells him to. In the confusion, Bushman slips away. They go home to the Grant mansion, and Mark decides to go after Bushman again. He goes to Gina's diner and meets up with a man named Crawley. These are two very important characters for Mark. Crawley gives him the scoop. He goes to Bushman, effortlessly rinses two of his goons, confronts Bushman, and beats him half to death with his bare hands before Marlene pulls him back. The two leave Bushman's bloody and battered corpse? The two leave Bushman's bloody and battered body lying on the floor and exit as Moon Knight leaves his signature crescent dart at the scene. Truly a generational aura farmer. This is the first issue, and he's already doing this bullshit. And that's the origin of Moon Knight. There's also his alters, Stephen Grant and Jake Lackley. Stephen is the millionaire playboy art connoisseur who took Mark's riches from his mercenary days and turned them into actual wealth through money laundering, but we don't talk about that, so he can actually have money. And Jake is the rough and tough people's man. He drives a cab, and no matter the situation, he always knows a guy. In the original run, they're all one guy though. Mark, Steven, Jake, and even Moon Knight are just alter egos of Mark, although it's kind of like Mark isn't the main one. It's a little bit weird, but I promise you it's good. However, Marlene prefers Steven. And honestly, Mark does too. Steven doesn't really want to be Mark anymore. Over the course of the run though, Steven and Jake start to develop their own personalities and even start to hate Mark for the terrible person he is, especially Steven. And Moon Knight kind of becomes his own identity. He can be like any of them underneath the mask, but Moon Knight kind of operates separately and kind of like on top of it. It's weird, but I promise you it works. Give it a shot. Overall though, the run was pretty fun, and it's definitely worth a shot if you're interested in the origins of this character. The current canon is a little bit different, but it's not really like too much. It's mostly minor things to fit a more current story, if that makes any sense. Harrow comes from the sequel to the original run, but he only appears in one comic in that, and I'm pretty sure that's the only appearance he ever has in the history of the comics, as far as I could tell. Now, I'm gonna stop you here. Unlike the last run, I would not recommend reading this. It's only 6 issues, but they're not very good. The first one expands on his history in some interesting ways, and the second one is the Harrow story, but it is not worth reading at all. They made Mark really quippy and kind of predatory. Like he makes a lot of jokes. He's trying to give like almost an impression of Spider-Man, but it doesn't work for the character. What about the predatory part? Marlene leaves him because he's almost obsessed with being Moon Knight, and this happens in the original run as well, although I don't really think it was handled all that well in that run either. But it doesn't really distract from anything because it was brought up before, you know? Following this, Mark decides to go to the Jazz Pier Cabaret because he thinks Marlene will be there, despite her making it very clear she does not want to see him again. He beats up a goon that's sexually harassing a woman and throws him out of a window on accident because he's much stronger now at night because of the events of issue 1. And yes, I am bringing up his powers and keeping them a little bit vague because I want you to read Moon Knight. And hey, I'll be fair. I'll leave a reading guide in the description, maybe even two if he's feeling saucy with it. After going out and saving the guy, he spots Marlene, but she doesn't want to see him and understandably runs away. He then decides to fucking chase her. Like, you're laying it on heavy, but I can still understand it to some degree, I guess. But once she gets into a cab, he decides to fucking follow her? I'm sorry, this is not Mark Spector. Like, sure, 100%, he is obsessive. I get that. But he is not like this with the people in his life. He's fucked up. He knows that he's hurting the people around him. He knows that he can never truly make up for the things that he's done. And he won't force people by his side. Even in the modern comics, they're not by his side anymore because of that. He knows that he cannot truly keep anybody with him. He cannot force people to stay with him. They can only be with him if he allows them to be, if they want to be. He's not just gonna like chase after them. This is the only time he's ever done this, and it's in the worst run, and I wonder why it's the only time he's ever done this. Maybe because it's out of fucking character. The real Mark would be a melodramatic mess about this, not whatever the fuck this is. Anyway, the ancient Egyptian priests that gave him his powers suddenly speak to him and appear before him as figments of his mind and make his brain hurt really badly because he's neglecting his duty as Moon Knight, and he instantly crashes his car. Moon Knight comics are so fucking awesome. The priests tell him to go to the Yucatan, and he goes. Like, instantly. After crashing his car, the next thing we see him doing is relaxing in a different country. Alright, I guess. Whatever. He spots a woman he saw in his vision, and decides to change into that stupid fucking outfit that I hate. I mean, the bare fucking hands, no moon symbol, the gold gauntlets. What are we doing? Whoever designed this, I hope you're eating boots in a pit of venomous snakes, you blasphemous fucking heathen. While he changes, the woman gets kidnapped and he goes after her. Some bad dialogue and a few punches later, he crashes the car and gets her out. Here, she tells us about Harrow, a facially disfigured scientist. She tells Mark that he's a candidate for the Nobel Peace Prize of Medicine, but she has some suspicions. His results are too advanced for modern technology, and his papers on animal research don't match up to the results. Don't know how the fuck he became a candidate if this was the case, but suspension of disbelief, it's the comics. She believes he's experimenting on humans. His experiments were supposed to be destroyed following the Nuremberg trials, but they disappeared. If you ask me, he could have just gone into Operation Paperclip, but I guess it's a good thing that there's one less Nazi in the government. Lord knows we have plenty of those right now. We see he, in fact, is a Nazi doing Nazi experiments. He reveals he's very insecure and in pain because of his face, which is why he's doing all these experiments, to find a cure. A Nazi that is evil because of personal issues that could easily be resolved with a therapist. I'm sure that's never happened before. That's pretty much all that you need to know about Harrow outside of him escaping, which leads to this extremely fucking funny line. So, I have a lot here, so I'm just gonna hit you with my general dislikes. Number 1, Harrow's actions are all over the place. Number 2, minor character inconsistencies. Number 3, cutting away from the action. Number 4, plot holes and contrivances. Number 5, the gods' avatars. And finally, suggestions. I will preface this by saying I didn't give timestamps for watching episode 1, so some of it might not have anything on the screen during it, and I'm sorry. And because of that, I guess I'll just like do it all like this. I'll just have this on screen, and like if I put clips over top, I put clips over top. If not, you can read along with me. Have fun with that. Okay, so in episode 1, after following Steven back to the museum, why does Harrow just let him go after judging him? What did he want here? Just to judge him? Was that the whole point of it? There's no backup plan, no break just in case kind of plan? Is it? He may just be stupid. I fear he may just be stupid. And then he comes back.
Stephen Grant of the gift shop.
I'm over here stroking my dick. I got lotion on my dick right now. I'm just stroking my shit. I'm horny as fuck.
So his genius plan was to go in,
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Scarce here.
judge him, let him go, and then just like hope to God that for some reason he comes back despite knowing that these people who basically want him dead know where he works and are willing to show up there and try to kill him because he's seen what happens when he gets judged. And you're hoping that he comes back after the museum closes. So he is stupid, unless Steven is just hearing Harrow's voice. In which case, I kind of like the decision. Okay. One last preface here. My timestamps are rounded and may not be exactly accurate. You may have to go backwards or forwards 10 seconds if you're trying to keep up. In episode 3, at the 30-minute 20-second mark, after reaching the tomb of Amit, instead of digging to her and releasing her, Harrow just comes to this guy and offers up the scarab? Why? How long does it take to dig to Amit? And then at 32 minutes, Harrow comes in and explodes the sarcophagus and walks away freely like they're not even mad at him.
What a nigga gonna do to me? Nothing, nigga, and I walk off like a G. Fuck you.
Also, they say his name is Anton, which I can only interpret as Anton Mogar, who is an art connoisseur, also known as the Midnight Man. He was in one of Moon Knight's earlier comics, I believe either number 2 or number 3 of the original series. He would not just be okay with that shit blowing up. Maybe that's just me, but a guy whose entire life is based around art, so much so that it drives him mad that he can't have everything, that he goes out and tries to steal everything that he can relating to art. Why the fuck would he just, like, I don't know, let the guy go? Or continue to talk to him even more? You have all these guards here and shit. Fucking shoot the guy. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm too quick to kill. Maybe I'm too trigger happy. I don't know. I would kill that guy. I would shoot him dead. This next one doesn't really have anything to do with Harrow himself, but at 30:45 in episode 4, Layla and Harrow are just getting done talking. Okay, that's fine.
Are you done?
Layla walks away. The goons that are with Harrow come down and tell him that they just found another way. And I have to call bullshit on it. I'm stuttering over myself in how baffling this decision is. You motherfuckers have been down here for days. At this point, days. But I'll give you benefit of the doubt. Maybe they just broke it open. You have been here for at least a couple hours. Mark found that shit. Not even Mark, actually. Not even the, like, resourceful one. The clueless one. Found that shit instantly. How have you just now found it? Right? Like, I'm not tripping, right? I feel like if I had spent all this time gathering people who are so fanatically obsessed with the same things that I am, and we go on a mission specifically to explore one specific thing that I have spent all this time preparing for, and we got cooked by a guy just like stumbling in here in like a couple minutes compared to our at least couple hours, I'd be pissed. I'd be fucking pissed. Moving on to the character inconsistencies. Episode 3, 624. Why does Mark hold back? I mean, it's funny, but Mark doesn't do that. And maybe it's because it's a kid. He says it's a kid later. Mark would still punch that guy. Like, they just killed a man in front of him, especially so early on in his Moon Knighting career. Mark would not fucking hold back and just slap the guy. He fucking punched his teeth in. I'm sorry. That's not Mark. I will say though, I did add, I'm pointing at the screen right now, but you can't see it. There you go. I'm pointing at you now. I will add though, at 7:15, Steven stopping Mark makes perfect sense to me. But it is weird that they have Mark hold back on his own and then not hold back, and then Steven steps in and now Mark is holding back. I feel like if they had just had him not hold back the first time, then Steven can, like, I don't know, you can write it off as like him being okay. Him saying, okay, you know what? That was a one-off thing. If he goes far again, I'll stop him there. But he doesn't. Also, I like the whodunit. I like the fact that, you know, both of them think that the other one went really far but neither of them can really put together the pieces that there's another person. Like Steven kind of hints at understanding it.
Listen, if you've got a problem with the body count, I suggest you start listening to that stupid pigeon.
But Mark doesn't even question it. Mark should absolutely know about the existence of Jake. I'm sorry. Especially with the way that they black out and like blink back into reality almost. Mark should have some sort of knowledge of Jake, or at least of a third personality. Maybe not understanding and knowing Jake himself, but realizing that there is some other third personality. Not having him bring it up just feels like such a missed opportunity. So for this next part, I'm gonna do this almost as like a compliment sandwich missing the bottom bun, if that makes any sense. So I'm gonna play this clip for you so you get the necessary context, and then I'm going to give it a compliment, and then I'm gonna talk about my criticism of it.
Look, if he is, we're gonna need Mark, yeah?
Exactly. See if she gets it. No, see, the thing is, we made a deal, Mark and I, that when he was done with Khonshu, he would disappear for good.
You guys made a deal that he would just disappear from my life. And you didn't think that maybe I should have been made aware of that?
Man, what a good line from Layla. It shows how self-absorbed both Mark and Steven are. Even though Steven considers himself to be much more morally upstanding than Mark, his perception is that everything is happening to him. Khonshu's here, it's happening to him. Mark wants control, it's happening to him. He wants help but isn't getting it, it's happening to him. Everything so far for Steven, he has internalized as a force acting upon him that he has no control over. But he thinks that making this decision on behalf of Layla is him taking control over his life, all the while completely disregarding the impact it could have on others. He needs help, for sure, and a lot of bad things do keep happening, but he has taken no meaningful steps to actually address it. He wants shortcuts and has just hurt one of the few people he cares about because he wants to feel better. Outstanding choice here. However, she did switch up quick as fuck here. She goes from, we need Mark.
Look, if he is, we're gonna need Mark, yeah?
To Mark saying Steven saying he already abandoned you, right?
Hadn't he disappeared from your life already?
Her just going, yeah, fuck that guy. He would probably lone wolf it anyway.
Plus, I know him. He'd want to lone wolf this whole thing. It's not happening. We're not gonna do that.
Why the fuck did you say that you would need him? I guess what the writer, if I could put myself in their shoes for a bit, I guess what the writers wanted to do was give Steven a little bit more agency, kind of poke a hole at Layla since Layla just poked a hole at him. But this is completely meaningless, and it serves to kind of be a detriment to Layla's character to have her just say one thing and then just immediately flip on it and then move on to the next scene. That doesn't really make sense to me. I feel like that's a pretty poor choice. Also, at 21 minutes, she's pretty damn calm. I mean, like Steven stalled the hecka for a bit, but how does she know that? She heard something fall and made a loud noise. For all she knows, this could have just been like a distraction. She has no idea that it fell on the hecka. And even still, this thing is a fucking monster. You have no idea the strength or the speed or the intelligence of this creature. My ass would be moving, bruh. I'm sorry, I would not just be like chilling. We're cutting away from the action. There was only 3 that I really felt offended by, that I really felt slapped in the face by. There was one in episode 3 at 7:15, but I don't really want to cover the one in episode 3. You can read it if you want, I guess. I want to talk about episode 6 here for a second, and I'm just going to read out what I wrote. Here's where I think the biggest mistake in Marvel history, at least for the MCU, was made, and one of the things that drove/continues to drive away otherwise fans of the show/character. Why in the fuck are we cutting away from the climax of the entire show? An absolutely mind-boggling decision that takes away from everything that has been so great so far. This fight was actually pretty good up until now. The other thing is the CGI monster fight, but that takes like a massive backseat to this. It only gets like, I don't know, maybe 20 to 30 seconds on screen if I'm not mistaken, maybe up to a minute, but for the length of the show, I guess it's not really all that bad, but it's just an absolutely horrible decision, and whoever made it should be blacklisted from writing, man. Cutting away from the final triumphant fight scene against the villain that's been built up the entire season, literally from episode 1. It's just it's irredeemable. There's no coming back from that. And there's a reason nobody has ever done that before, and nobody will ever do it again, because it ruins everything. What's the point? Where's the payoff? Right? If I'm watching, God forbid, a goddamn Transformers movie, and I'm watching Optimus beat the shit out of Megatron, and then suddenly it cuts to Sam Witwicky screaming, and then the movie is over. What the fuck was the point of watching the goddamn movie? There's nothing. There's no point in watching the movie. I came here to watch people fucking wail on each other. This is superhero shit. This is what happens in superhero shit. I don't want to cut away from it. I want to see it. I get the point of it, like, thematically for, like, the DID shit, but I feel like you could have folded that in so much better. Maybe this is the first time we actually do see Jake. Maybe it's not a post-credit reveal. Maybe we actually see who's behind all this shit. We've teased it the entire time. Why not rip the Band-Aid off now? This would get people so hype. You could introduce a third suit. You could have him actually, like, finally not hold back. We could see the comic book-like brutality that Moon Knight has shown, like I said, in the comics. It would be such a significantly, infinitely better decision than what was made. And it pisses me off deeply, not only as a fan of Moon Knight, but just as a fan of film and television and love and hope and inspiration and the human spirit. So I noticed this in episode 4, but I'm just talking a little bit more about the timeline of it all. They find the tomb in like episode 2 or 3, and then they start digging, and then Harrow shows up when Mark and Layla meet the Midnight Man, and then he goes before the gods and avatars.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Scarce here.
And now they're inside, but haven't found the Ushabti. I don't know. Like, why was he dicking around doing all these fucking side quests when your main goal is to blow up and act like you don't know nobody? So in episode 6, at 6 minutes 20 seconds, Harrow judges a guy, and he just instantly joins their movement. Why? Right? Like, why does he just go with them? If you pass judgment, are you just like brainwashed now? How does this work? This isn't exactly explained from my perspective. This guy just fucking joined them out of nowhere. And also, Layla's just here somehow. There had to have been a missing scene between her leaving the tomb and coming along. There's no way she'd be able to sneak into this group, especially because Harrow knows what she's wearing. He just saw her. He was just talking to her. They were chopping it up. So there's no chance that he wouldn't be able to recognize her, right? So episode 3, about that Avatar scene. You know the one. Khonshu and Mark want to try Harrow for conspiracy to release Amit. Okay, I'm on board. I understand that. Hang this motherfucker for all I care. The gods call in Harrow to get his side of it. Absolutely. Okay, mirroring our justice system makes us question truly how long ago they decided not to meddle in human affairs. I think this plays on a bunch of different things, and particularly the whole gods having human fallibility thing. You know, if our justice system can get things wrong, maybe theirs can too. I think there's a lot of things that can work with this concept, and I kind of love it. But he goes on about Mark being unwell, and they just let him? I'm sorry, but human courts don't allow ad hominem attacks. They would sidebar your ass and tell you to shut the fuck up. Especially for something mirroring the severity of this. Like, we're talking about, like, ending the fucking world. You know what I'm talking about? They wouldn't just let him yap about how the prosecution is mentally unstable, would they? I don't think so. And then instead of challenging that and asking him what he's doing again, or doing literally anything to try and prove what Khonshu and Mark are alleging, they probe Mark about his stability, and then they say it's over because he's committed no crime. Motherfucker, it's not about what he's done, it's about what he's conspiring to do. He's trying to try him for conspiracy to release Amit. He's not trying him for releasing Amit. Are you fucking stupid? What's going on here? Are you guys dumb? This is like charging someone with conspiracy to assassinate an elected official and then finding them not guilty because they haven't killed them yet. What are we doing here, man? However, I do like that Mark says he needs help.
I am unwell. I need help.
And he points out that this is not what we're here for.
This is not about my feelings. I'm not the one on trial here. He is.
But it doesn't really count because they just kind of shoo him away and tell him that he's a fucking mentally ill loser. Oh, and then it's followed by a fat exposition dump by a character we just met. I understand she knows all this stuff, but how is she the only one that knows about this guy that can help Mark? Why is she the only avatar or god that sees something wrong here? This scene, in my opinion, exists solely to move the plot further. In episode 6 at 8 minutes 30 seconds. These avatars are so fucking stupid, man. I hate these characters. They do nothing but serve as a barrier for Mark and are so cluelessly moronic that they can barely put together what's going on. But I can see a world in which this was done on purpose to hyperbolically show how stupid, selfish, and inconsistent the gods are, which has potentially amplified these aspects within their avatars. Similar to how Khonshu preys on Mark's instability, for instance. If that was an intentional choice, I like them more. I can tolerate them at least. And I think tolerate is a good word because they still suck either way, but at least I can understand them a little bit more this way. I'm here to offer some suggestions as well, because it's not just enough to critique a show. I think if you're critiquing a show and not offering any suggestions for it, depending on how you do it, I think it can be fine. But in most cases, it's just a bunch of stupid assholes trying to be dicks about a show that they had nothing to do with, that they know nothing about. They know nothing about cinematography. They know nothing about screenwriting. They know nothing about what goes on behind the scenes, and they just want to be gigantic fucking assholes on the internet about random bullshit to get clicks and money. But that's not what I'm after. I'm here to genuinely give you like a little bit of insight into my own brain. I'm here to impart some soul to you. So I'm going to give you some suggestions for some of the things that I said. So in episode 3, after the exposition dump, immediately after, we have Layla tell Mark he's doing it all wrong and she'll bring him to where he needs to go. So why the fuck did we need the avatar lady to tell him all that shit instead of Layla? I'm sorry that I forgot her name. She has like 5 lines and never shows up again, so I couldn't care to remember her name. Maybe they should give her some more lines or have her be part of a group that's a little bit more bearable to watch on screen, but I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Marcus told her nothing, and she barely heard the tail end of his conversation, so she knows pretty much nothing about what he's been told, but she also knows what he's looking for. I would say cut that scene, the scene with the avatar lady, and add a little bit more to Layla here, and it's significantly less clunky and gives her a little bit more brains to her brawn. Not that she was particularly missing that, but it just expands on it. I feel like this change would help deepen Layla's character, cut out some of the less necessary parts of the script, we'll say, and still get us essentially to where we need to go. And hey, let's say you want to keep the scene in. Maybe for whatever reason you just really like this random side character that we've never seen before and probably will never see again. Okay, that's fair. Let's say we keep it in. Maybe have Layla jump in earlier and pull Mark away from the juice vendor and ask him what he knows about Senfu. We get a little bit more from Layla in a way that feels natural, aside from her just like kind of spawning in, I guess. And we're getting this important exposition from someone we actually care about. You could cut a little bit from the last scene and add it here with Layla how I described, and I would believe it would work a little bit better. This is just my opinion as a young screenwriter though, so who really gives a fuck about my opinion? Maybe I'm just a stupid piece of shit and I should love myself. And please, Disney, do not take my advice. The last time you took advice from people on the internet, we know what happened.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Wait, Mark? What the fuck are you doing here, bruh? Omid is about to be unleashed. Get your ass back to Cairo. At 10 minutes 20 seconds in episode 4, Layla's reciprocation feels a bit forced, but I still buy it. However, even pushing that back makes so much sense here. At the end of the day, he is a moral man in every way that Mark isn't. Even though he loves her, he'd never move on her until Mark moved on from her. And I also like that he tells her about Khonshu here. He just got called out for not telling her things before, so absolutely he would tell her here if it's on his mind. Just pretty good choices for the scene, in my opinion. Now, you might be thinking that's too positive. And you're right, because that wasn't the criticism here. Given what I just said, I don't like that they kiss here. I would have saved it for much later in the story. But I'll excuse it because I do like these characters and I do want to see them together. I just feel like for what they were going for, they wanted two completely different things, and they're mutually exclusive. And I feel like they should have just picked one or the other. If it was me, I would have picked Steven rebuking her advance on him, and then later come back and have them finally embrace it. Okay, so in episode 1, Steven blacks out for a couple days and then comes back to work. How the hell does he keep his job? Right? And like, why the hell is his boss putting up with him? I know none of the bosses that I've ever had would put up with that shit if I just left for a couple days and then came back. And I'll even give him some grace. I'll act in good faith here. Maybe it was over the weekend. This is a museum. Maybe they have Saturdays and Sundays off, right? I can understand that. But his ass at least missed one day, no call, no show. That Friday, 100%, he missed no call, no show. There's no fucking chance he at least wouldn't get written up for that shit. I don't care how long you've been at your job. If your ass is missing a day, no call, no show, you're getting at least written up. Most of the time, your ass is getting fired. Editing Vritas here. Forgive the slop. I don't edit that much, so it looks messy as fuck, and I'm sorry about that. But I'm just now realizing that I didn't give I'm just now realizing that I didn't actually give a suggestion here. I just like started shitting on it. So my suggestion here is they don't ever go back to the museum even once, if I remember correctly. So just like fire his ass, or just like get on him, write him up, just something. You don't really gotta change too much. It'll add like, at most, if you do like the write up, that's like 20 seconds to the runtime. Who gives a fuck, right? I'm gonna take this time to talk about Steven. So if you know anything about the comics, you know this is not Steven Grant, not even close. And that's one of the biggest things that people who don't like this show will tell you. They got Steven completely wrong. And I don't necessarily disagree, but I want to raise a point. I was watching some videos to gain different perspectives on this show, and I ended up watching Pillar of Garbage's video. Sidebar, fantastic YouTuber, by the way, severely underrated. Please go give him a watch. He does some great work. He does a lot of video essays about film and television and general just cultural stuff, and I think he's a great channel. Please go check him out. I will leave him just linked in the description. But as I was watching his video, he brought up a good point. Marvel likely couldn't have Steven Grant be Steven Grant, because when you think about it, what do they want to do? They don't want to do things that have already been done before. You can see that all the time with outside of the past couple of years, I guess. They do want to try and do different things. And having Moon Knight have this rich alter ego, the comparisons are already made online and they piss me the fuck off, and I hate you if you say it, but people would point out that this is kind of just schizophrenic Batman. And while I think it's completely unfounded, I see where those people are coming from. And so they likely couldn't have Steven be Steven in fear, or maybe not in fear, but out of preservation of themselves from having those criticisms levied to them. And so if this was the inevitable route of Steven Grant's character for this show and for this universe, I kind of like it. Like, the entire time, I found Steven very charming, very endearing, and he has a lot of good jokes. Like, Steven is fucking funny, man. And then I think it does bring in an aspect for this universe, since they're making him so much more in touch with the supernatural side and the Egyptian mythos. I think it brings in something very important to that character, which is the fanaticism of Egyptian culture and specifically ancient Egyptian deities. So I think it's important that they had him provide something that is so crucial for not only this story, but this character in a way that is missing because his character changed. If they changed him to just, I don't know, some guy who works at a museum but isn't all that interested in Egyptology, it wouldn't hit as hard. So making him so knowledgeable of these things and making him so invested and interested in ancient Egyptian culture, it does lend a lot to this character and makes it so much more engaging than it might have been even if they kept Steven the exact same way. Because in my opinion, especially for everything all the way up until the Jeff Lemire run, Steven was just kind of like a regular guy. He just had like a lot of money. He wasn't really all that interesting, you know? It was more of the dynamic of having to balance Steven with Jake with Mark that made Steven by proxy more interesting rather than Steven being an interesting person in and of himself. But now for the moment I've all been waiting for. My likes about the show. I like quite a bit about this show. So much that I might have forgotten to write everything down. But here is my best shot at what I had at the time of writing for all the things that I liked. Characterization of all the main characters. Authenticity to the comics. Hype moments and aura farming. Touching and tear-jerking. Good, violent action. The suit. Layla/Marlene. Funny, in particular Steven. Inconsistencies of the gods and what they stand for. Subtle analogies for real-world issues. And Mark. Like I said earlier for episode 1, I didn't really timestamp any of my thoughts and opinions, unfortunately. So for episode 1, it's just going to be me reading from my notes app. So I hope you like that. Love the shoes Harrow wears. Look like crocodiles. Love everything he does to know if he changed to Mark even without knowing about him. I could see Steven doing this. An altar speaking to an inanimate statue. Dare I say they read a bit of the original run? Perfect and authentic to the character. The introduction of Khonshu blew my mind. My god, what a powerful start. Love the centering of Ammit. They said they were inspired by the Lemire run, and choosing Ammit as the goddess our antagonist follows shows that. Hate that they cut away from the action, but can understand in episode 1. Love that Mark doesn't hold back and kills them though. Absolutely 100% Mark Spector. Fuck these guys, kill them all. God, I love this mystery so much. It's so interesting. The goldfish. Genius. Mark ruining things for Steven? I may just fall in love. Steven associating. Holy fuck, my dick is so hard right now. Steven constantly leaving voicemails for his mom is such a compelling character trait. Such a good choice. Reveals so much about this character in such a simple, easy, and involving way. Love how visibly mentally unwell but good-hearted this character is. Feels so authentic to the character. I don't want to read this one, so if you want to just read it in your head, and go ahead. Please God, if there's a season 2, turn his flat into the mission. I still agree with that, actually. I still very much agree with that. I think that would be so fucking cool with the way that the lights all switch on and off. I get that that's Khonshu, but it would be really fucking cool to have a midnight mission. Khonshu in the hall. Khonshu in the hall. Khonshu in the hall! Harrow going on his spiel about how Ammit could prevent genocides and starting with the Holocaust is so nice. It's an obvious one to start with, but the connection to Mark is so good with him being Jewish. I don't know if Harrow knows about Mark being Jewish, but if he does and he's still trying to appeal to that inkling of Mark and Steven, I'd say it's fantastic writing. Ammit's scales being baffled by Steven and unable to produce judgment. Beautiful. The Jackal is fucking awesome. That final scene is perfection. The slapping, Mark walking Steven through it, Moon Knight brutally beating the Jackal to death and completely destroying the bathroom and making it run from him. Oh my god, I'm gonna run through a fucking wall! And the suit. My fucking god. I prefer the comic suit, the black and white, but holy shit, the suit does go really fucking hard. Overall, great start. If I weren't a Moon Knight fan, I'd love it. And even as a Moon Knight fan, I think I do still kind of love it. Wait. They gave Steven the Mr. Knight suit and Mark a new suit. Is Jake gonna have the comic suit? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Giving the most violent version of the character the comic suit would completely make me buy in. I love the suit now. And I do. I just said that, but I do still love the suit. And that's all that I had for episode 1. 2 minutes 30 seconds. I love this shot of Steven flipping upside down. At 6 minutes, immediately we get a guy trying to get Steven to go see a professional and he says, "You're not alone," to which Steven replies,
Yeah, it's like part of the problem, isn't it?
perfect. Steven does not like Mark. Acknowledging that Steven thinks Mark's existence is the problem feels so true to this character. 12 minutes 20 seconds. Khonshu is so fucking cool. My god, they did do him justice in this show. 9 minutes 15 seconds. Steven being an emotional wreck and begging for help. My dick is ripping through my pants right now. 22 minutes. Billy reference.
Guess what we've got here, Billy?
I suspected these two were the goons from the Lemire run, but this confirms it. I love this touch.
What's this? It's a paperweight. Where'd you get it? Paperweight shop.
At 25:30, I love that the wind blows so heavily. In issue 28 of the original series, Khonshu blows a big gust of wind to save Mark and Marlene, or it's presumed that he did.
Kill him.
What's he saying? Is he telling you to kill me?
Break his windpipe.
Yeah.
2704, Yucatan reference.
The Yucatan.
They read his original comic. This is a big one, so I'm just gonna read this on screen. I don't care to memorize all this shit. If you want to read along, read along. If you want to just hear me, hear me. That's cool. I feel like now is where I should talk about Harrow. Obviously, this is not Harrow, but let's be honest, they could never do Harrow. Not in 2022, and certainly not today. If adapted honestly, he would have been a neo-Nazi, and the rhetoric he would have been spewing at that point in American politics, and especially today, would have been too divisive because too many people would sympathize with him. Changing him into this was probably always going to happen, but I honestly kind of like it for what it is. Think about it. They're a cult that preaches about purity and preemptive justice and are exclusionary towards anybody that doesn't adapt 100% to their ideology while trying to frame themselves as the truly righteous and gaslighting people through a fake veil of we're the real group of tolerance and acceptance. Harrow and his group are an allegory for neo-Nazism. They kept the heart of the character alive while making him significantly more interesting and engaging, and I actually like the change of Harrow. I wrote I'll update you how I feel later, and I still feel the same. I still think that he's a good allegory. 2850. Stephen instantly downing Amit. Love that. Nodding at Arthur not abandoning Khonshu over some moral disagreement, but because he wanted to follow someone with more power and more willingness to exert that power. Which again, as this conversation goes on, you can see not only more of what I just said, but it makes it more clear that he's an allegory for neo-Nazism. Cleansing the righteous of the impure before they have even done anything solely because the person in charge deems them of being unworthy of being part of the in-group. It's pretty in your face. I'm going to read this one to you word for word. 3430. Stephen breaking down because of all the voices. I'm crying tears of joy. Oh my god, and then Layla genuinely being there for him, whether or not he can summon the suit.
It's alright. It's alright, okay.
Jesus Christ, man, this fucking means something to me, man. 3514. Oh my fucking god, the Mr. Night Suit, god. Again, I don't know what I was doing when I was watching this show. You can read the highlighted sentence. I'm not reading it, but the show got a few emotions out of me, I guess.
She said I needed a suit.
Yeah, the ceremonial armor from Concha's temple, not Psycho Colonel Sanders. Well, I don't know how any of this shit works, man.
3552. The Truncheons. 3740. Taking off the jacket and rolling up the sleeves, I'm getting my wife pregnant watching this show. 39 minutes to 40 minutes, 15 seconds. The suit, the big cape, the crescent darts, the agility, the quick thinking, the crescent moon, brutally impaling the jackal with the sickest shot I've ever seen in my life. Words cannot describe what I feel right now. If this was in the comic suit, I think I could die happy. At 4110, Arthur proclaims he's all about preemptive justice, but knowing before even having Amit judge him that this innocent homeless man was going to die.
I wish you could live to see the world we make.
And then instantly killing him. He is a liar, and this furthers not only his place as an allegory, but also his moral complexity. It also furthers the plot by having him take the scarab, so this scene is doing a lot of heavy lifting very subtly in a very short amount of time. 7 minutes 30 seconds, Mark speaking Arabic. Comic accurate, I like that. 9 minutes, this is the only cutaway that I like. We can keep this one in. Maybe we keep in the one for episode 1 as well. We keep this one in, okay? Good job, guys.
Nice job, team. Take him to the ledge.
He's just a kid.
He'll talk.
Praise Amit.
I thought he'd talk.
10 minutes 30 seconds to 12 minutes 40 seconds. Khonshu is so fucking cool. Being able to, on command, create a solar eclipse is so badass. And he's kind of cryptic with it, too. I don't know what I meant with that one, but I guess... At 24:20, I love this scene. Even if it weren't Mark and Layla, I just love this drama. They both very clearly are trying to convince themselves they don't want to get back together, but they know deep down that they do. The only thing holding them back is their brain telling them that splitting is the best thing to do. This really works for me, regardless of it being Moon Knight.
All right, Stephen. You want to talk to me? Talk to me. What now?
What now? What now is you give me the body and you piss off.
The cape. I just busted. Wish they held it longer and had him glide with it, but this was good enough. Mark's fight is perfect. effortlessly showing off his speed, agility, and disregard for the damage he causes to his targets, breaking bones, stabbing, slicing, filling them with their own bullets. It's all amazing. You give this show Daredevil Born Again's gore, and you have your Moon Knight. This part is also pretty good.
That's it. All right, time out. That's it, time out. Guys, let's all calm down, yeah? We're all worked up. Let's all just, like, chill the F out and talk for a second.
Take the body. Take the body, Mark.
Layla convincing Mark to give Steven the body.
Mark, we need Steven.
And it being the smoothest change so far. Mark is starting to like Steven. I love this character development. Everything from 40 minutes 30 seconds to 44 minutes 10 seconds. Cinema. The night sky looks like it was ripped straight from the comics. Beautiful. 9 minutes to 9 minutes 36 seconds. Steven and Mark arguing about Layla is great.
Hey, one finger on
We've
her.
got it from here.
I swear to you, Stephen, I swear
I need like a recipe for a protein shake or
I'll
something.
throw us
I'll call you.
off a cliff.
Because in the comics, Steven is jealous of Mark because of Marlene and thinks he's unworthy of her. There's a cute little reference here.
It's a maze.
It's amazing.
No, like there are 6 paths.
Yeah.
24 minutes. Layla wins the fight, but it took literally everything in her. I like that she won, but I love that she's down. She's just some guy. Of course it took everything out of her.
Among Us.
I mean, I had to go digging down old Alexander the Great's gullet, but I found it.
Can he hear me?
Alexander? I don't think so. God, I hope not.
34:48. Everything since 24 minutes 30 seconds has been great outside of my problem with Harrow, but this part particularly shines. Mark would always rather die standing than live kneeling, especially if Layla/Marlene were in danger. He knows he's going down either way, so he's gonna take a couple out with him. And what a choice to move around some of the pieces of his backstory and give it to us here. I am absolutely in love right now. This is everything I could have ever wanted in a Moon Knight show. Right here. For this part I just wrote 37 minutes 30 seconds to 46 minutes 40 seconds back shots. This. My god, this. I started tearing up. They made creative choices obviously, but this is nearly 1-to-1 to the Lemire run. The hospital, the clothes that Steven and Mark wear, the goons being back as the security staff of the hospital, the sedation, all of it. Words cannot express how I feel about this. If they made him make a makeshift Moon Knight suit and mask out of a bed sheet, I think I would have fainted. All the blood would have rushed from my entire body straight to my dick. I would have died from a lack of oxygen to all my vital organs, and I would have died an erect and happy man. For episode 5, I didn't really write much because I loved this episode so much. So I'm only going to read you the 3 things that I wrote, and then I'm going to read out my final thoughts on it. 8 minutes, 20 seconds. That's Bertrand Crawley.
And there's Crawley probably about to yell, bingo!
Editing Vritas here again. It was actually just a reference to him. He was actually in the other episode towards the start of the hospital scene. Sorry about that. 23 minutes, 25 seconds to 25 minutes, 45 seconds. This scene rocks. I love their portrayal of Khonshu. Absolutely perfect. Preying on Mark's broken mind while genuinely offering him a second chance.
Your mind, I feel it. Fractured. Broken. Most fascinating. You are a worthy candidate to serve me during this time.
All the while, Mark blames himself and hates himself for it a little bit. These writers love Moon Knight. 27:30. That's it. Just the timestamp. Wow. What an episode. My shortest writing yet. Outside of a few nitpicks, this is the best episode in the season and one of Marvel's best. Moving, heartbreaking, tear-jerking. The performance of Oscar Isaac is unparalleled. This man is a generational talent, and he deserves an Oscar nom every year of his life moving forward. Especially for Frankenstein, you motherfuckers. Movie's not even out yet. I can't even be saying that. This part's a little bit outdated, but at the time, I couldn't believe this show probably wouldn't be coming back. This episode alone should have greenlit a season 2. And to think, there's a missing scene here where Mark confronts his mother that was cut. A scene that I believe the director said was far and away the best of the entire season from Isaac. Truly a masterpiece. This show is worth a watch for this episode alone. Editing Vritas here, you may have already noticed, but I was unable to add any clips from episode 6 for some reason. That's the only episode that gets copyright striked. So I don't want to blow up this video. Well, at least not in the bad way. I'm fine with it blowing up in the good way, I guess. But I couldn't get any clips for episode 6 here, so sorry about that one, I guess. 10 minutes. Harrow's switch up makes a lot of sense to me. He's been shown to just believe whatever a god tells him blindly, so him being told he's imbalanced and instantly believing it without question works for me. I like this choice. Now, here's where the verbal gooning really starts to kick off for me.
So I get to go on to eternal peace and he just stays lost in the sand forever? No, I'm not good with that.
That is Mark fucking Spector, boy. Put some fucking respect on my goat's name. 20 minutes, 33 seconds. I love that Mark and Steven negotiate with Khonshu. Oh my fucking god! His cape covered the moon! Jesus Christ, what did I do to be eating this good? 26:30. This motherfucker Khonshu talking about giving people a choice. Bro, you took every single choice away from Mark ever. Get your ass back in the Ushabti before you piss me the fuck off. 27:50. Oh hey, I love this fight. It's the fucking truncheon grappling hook. Oh my god, fuck me. These writers are cooking.
superhero mostraya?
So cute. God, I love this small interaction. It makes the world feel so much bigger. Also at 17 minutes, going back a bit, what a moving scene here. This is the heart of what the entire Lemire run is about. Only by accepting and embracing himself, every part of himself, unapologetically and lovingly, can Mark and Steven finally be free. No more running, no more fighting, no more gods or bloodshed or oppression. Just love and acceptance. Absolutely beautiful. Although there will be a lot more fighting and bloodshed and gods and stuff, but this time it's on their terms. 33 minutes in. I am mixed on this decision. On one hand, Mark would almost always kill this guy, like 99.99% of the time. But on the other hand, this is about choice. The same way the Lemire run was, and to some degree, Mark is choosing to get rid of Khonshu and not play by his games. He's doing what he feels is right, especially if it's against Khonshu. I could take it or leave it. I feel like killing Harrow and then rejecting Khonshu is more true to the character, but not killing Harrow and rejecting Khonshu is more true to the themes and message of this show, and to some extent the comic. 34:30. Isaac's eyes here. Holy fuck. So subtle, but so important to the characters he plays. My god. Wow. What a show. Hats off, man. If only there wasn't a huge, glaring, bright red, catastrophic fuck-up at the climax of the show.
I blacked out.
Still, great ending. Perfect for the character. Not only for the show, but for the character as a whole. For the post-credits, Jake speaking Spanish is inspired. Of course, the loyal, hard-working proletarian learns the language of his struggling brothers and sisters. That is what Jake is all about. A man of the people, no matter who the people are. I also like him being a limo driver instead of a cabbie. I think that's a fantastic choice because not only does it kind of elevate his position in the comics to now something higher, but it also works to, in a roundabout kind of way, give us what we're missing from the comics with Steven. See, as a limo driver, especially the kind of limo that he has, he's dealing with a lot higher class of personnel, and he can use this as leverage. Let's say, I don't know, he has some microphones, he has some cameras in the back, and he's dealing with some unscrupulous people in the back. He can use that as leverage to gain his own wealth. Sure, it's through less than savory means, but that's what Moon Knight's always been about. He got his money from his mercenary days looting and shit. So obviously, it's not exactly the most ethical way of getting your money, so it still keeps that theme from the comics. It brings in the aspect of the wealth. They can use that to leverage, again, their own power for money, and then they can use that to be more comic accurate, not only for one in particular persona, but for all three of them. And also the Spectre license plate is dope as fuck. They never missed an opportunity for a comic reference in here, man. I'm telling you, I swear to God. I I want to talk about Layla briefly. Some Moon Knight fans are not all that keen on Layla instead of just having Marlene in the show. And to you, I offer this thought. Layla is Marlene. I mean, they literally gave her Marlene's backstory, but outside of that, she is very much a comic accurate Marlene. She's strong, she's quick thinking, she's very capable of helping Mark. But there is one important change to her character. One that is so fundamental to the Moon Knight story that I think it completely makes sense to make this a new character, and it's something that I mentioned before. Layla understands Mark and Steven. In the comics, Marlene downplays Mark's condition because she doesn't understand it. She actively wants him to stop being Jake and Mark and just be Steven. And I think for a modern audience who are much more understanding of mental health these days, changing this aspect of her makes a lot of sense, especially in a story whose primary theme is self-love and understanding. As a mega fan of the comics, I like Layla, and I think you should too, if you just take your head out of your ass for a second. First off, I want to preface this with a huge shout out to Twitter user MoonKnight_up and the CosmicCircus.com for this information. In a 2022 interview including actors Oscar Isaac, Ethan Hawke, and May Kalamaui, alongside director Mohammed Diab, Mohammed said this.
Marvel was very supportive from the get-go. Layla herself wasn't completely Egyptian at the beginning, and they allowed us to make her Egyptian.
So yeah, get fucked, idiots. Layla is Marlene, just retooled a bit. Or at least I believe there is strong evidence to back that up. There's nothing solid, at least from what I can find, but I'm still correct and you're wrong, so eat my dick. But I also want to point out another thing he said. Something that really goes to show that the passion I picked up on while watching was present behind the scenes as well. This was Mohammed's response to how the collaboration was with cast and crew. And then show clip, obviously. You have it in your notes app, dumbass. Who the fuck are you talking to like that? What did I do?
Each one of them brought something to the table. They weren't just actors or someone who wanted figurines for them or being part of the Marvel universe. No. They were intellectual people. The story developed because of them. We had table reads. Each one of them was his character's best lawyer. And they every day on the shoot, each one of them throws ideas and questions everything. And I think that's part of why we had one of the, no, actually not one. It's the least amount of additional photography in the history of Marvel, which is 4 days. So I'm proud that we only had 4, and I think because Marvel allowed us to develop as much as it's needed, and with those beautiful intellectual people, with the great writers, and with Sarah, my wife, who's a producer on the show, on board, that table really elevated the show.
Moving away from the behind the scenes stuff though, let's pivot to some news. In a recent interview with the Cosmic Circus, insider Alex Perez was asked, "Hey Alex, have you heard anything regarding other possible characters or projects that are in the more dark/supernatural corner of the universe?" To which Alex replied, "Oh yes, that's definitely coming in the next saga." He was also asked about a potential season 2 for Moon Knight and what we could see him in outside of a potential Midnight Suns video, to which he replied, "I don't know about Moon Knight season 2 being dead considering the ideas they had going for it, but I wouldn't be surprised if they held back on it until after a Midnight Suns movie because Mark and Steven somehow have to get back to New York." So he could or could not be coming back, but the existence of a Midnight Suns project would really be our best indication of whether or not he will. So get fucked, motherfucker, because guess what? Insider Daniel RPK on his Patreon said that Midnight Suns is back in business. Woohoo! 1,000-year reign of Khonshu, baby. Let's go! One last thing about something that I touched on earlier. In an interview with The Direct, Moon Knight costume designer Megan Kasperlik said this about a potential Jake Lockley suit. "I think that I would make it darker. I would make it probably the black one, the black costume that's in the comics. I would definitely start there. This is nothing that they've ever done. This is just me. Those suits are amazing, and you just never know. But there was nothing that was ever done." Miss or Mrs. Kasperlik, if you can give me this suit right here, my life is yours. You could behead me in front of my family, and I would thank you for it. I will give you whatever you want if you allow me to see this in live action. You know, I've been reverse hyping this show for a while to my friends. When I first watched it and in the years since, I thought the show was an inaccurate but overall okay show that sits at around a 5.5 or a 6. But I started acting like I hated it more than anything and that it was an absolute abomination to the name of Moon Knight to get them more invested in it. And in both cases, I was wrong. I was dead wrong. This show is amazing. I have my problems with it, but I would unbiasedly rate this like a 7 out of 10. This show has so much heart poured into it, and you can really feel it at times, particularly in episode 5. And all the small references that I picked up on make it near impossible to say that this team didn't have several people on it that love Moon Knight. Their love for the character genuinely moved me at points. Despite its flaws, for certain aspects of the show, I truly don't think you could do any better of an adaptation. This is embodied perfectly in the interview I mentioned before. When asked about how he prepared for the role, Oscar Isaac said this.
So I did go back to the comics and research how he's been depicted. In fact, I got a bunch of different artwork from all the different comic runs and had them pasted all around my trailer, just so every time I was sitting in there, I was always surrounded by those visuals that are just so beautiful and frightening. And so there was a lot of, really what I took from that is in a way, it was more the spirit of it as opposed to any plot points. And then for us, it was just about telling a real story that's about a journey through DID.
He fucking gets it, man. God damn, how am I blessed to have this beautiful, wonderful, perfect human being be playing my favorite character? This is unreal. I'm eating so good. But more importantly, that's what I felt the entire time watching the show. It perfectly captures the spirit of what Moon Knight is. Mental illness, anger, love, justice, redemption, self-actualization, all of it. On a spiritual level, you cannot get better than what this team accomplished. This show is beautiful, actually has some goddamn color, has a genuinely unbelievable performance from Oscar Isaac with great performances from co-lead May Kalamaui and lead antagonist Ethan Hawke, and pays homage to several runs in the comics, good and bad, and I'm sure that I missed a bunch of Easter eggs in it. We failed this show. Not just Moon Knight fans, but anybody that liked or still likes the MCU. The show sits at an 88 and 73 on Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb respectively, yet you go online and there are so many people that feel how I felt before, and even more that have more negative opinions on this show. When it released, I remember a lot of reviewers and normies giving it like a 6 out of 10 and calling it more Marvel, and we could not have been more wrong. This show is everything Marvel was lacking post-Endgame and up until Thunderbolts. Soul, comedy, heart, color, passion, accuracy, all of it. And despite the general positive feelings of it, the internet in some way turned us against it. Instead of judging the project on its own legs, we let the Marvel hate brigade pit us against this show. This team and this character deserve so much more. Because at the end of the day, this isn't Spider-Man. This isn't Batman or Superman or Captain America or Iron Man or even characters like Daredevil or Green Lantern. You likely only get one shot at this unless it's successful. We may never see Moon Knight on screen again, and that is a tragedy. The MCU just showed us with Thunderbolts that there is a market for emotional, trauma-focused stories like this. People are craving it, and in my opinion, the world kinda needs more stories like this. Stories about love, acceptance, and self-actualization. Stories about how the mentally ill aren't broken. Stories about how those of us who have messed up so much in life can still be happy. Stories about how we can become better than what we are. Quick aside, that part was written before the announcement of the Midnight Suns project being back in development, but I think my words still ring true here. Please, give this show a chance. Whether you're rewatching or viewing it for the first time, what do you have to lose? Show Marvel there is still a market for this character. If you like this video, first of all, like and motherfucking subscribe. But secondly, just post something. Doesn't matter what or where. Just give a thought about Moon Knight from either the show, comics, or whatever else. Put him out into the ether. And if you post it on Twitter, I might just see it and drop you an update. Thank you so much for watching. This has been something on my mind for a while, so I'm glad you took the time to hear out my stupid rant about my favorite character. But I want to leave you with what really made me fall head over heels for this character. The ending of Jeff Lemire's Moon Knight run from 2016. After everything Mark has gone through. After all the blood, the death, the heartache, and ultimately the repression of himself, Mark can finally accept himself. And after Mark, Steven, and Jake come together to finally reject Khonshu, Mark snaps back to reality. He stands on a New York rooftop, the moon shining bright above him. Quiet. For the first time in a long time. Our mind is quiet. And I just let it wash over me. I let it be quiet. The cold New York rain starts up, baptizing him and absolving him of all his pain and wrongdoings. He takes out his mask. Then doubt starts to creep in. Is this real? All I know for sure is that the rain feels real as it hits our face. Real enough, anyway. And that's good enough for us.